I grew up in Little Havana, and I've pretty much been in Florida all of my life. I was born in Cuba. I left Cuba when I was about 6 years old. And my father um, left for the US when I was 1 year old, and we weren't reunited as a family till I was 6 years old. He came to be with his brother who was living in New York at the time. And during the time that he was away, he would send us letters. And I didn't know how to read. I mean, I must have been like 3, 4, 5, but my earliest memory of these letters. And my mom would read them to us. And I remember looking at the paper, and I remember looking at the cursive, and I couldn't, understand what it was, but I knew what it represented. And I remember feeling this deep desire to to communicate what my life was like and what I was feeling and how much I missed him. So I would sit down, and and to me, cursive looked like waves, ocean waves, So I would sit down and I would write pages and pages of of scribbled waves across, the lines, and no idea. I mean, obviously, it made no sense. It was not legible, but I knew what I was trying to communicate. And it wasn't until years later that I made the connection that one of the reasons I write is so deeply connected to that initial feeling, to receiving the letters, getting information, and then having me pretend to write being, the most clear voice that I could get a message across. So that was like a personal art, moment for me. Um, but I also remember during this time, there was this older gentleman named Dr. Miranda, who was a doctor, but was also a novelist. And he would, for some reason, our house became a kind of salon for him. And all the people from the neighborhood would come in and sit in the living room, and he would read chapters of his novel, most whose characters were inspired by the women in the neighborhood. And I just remember being enthralled, by this experience. I didn't really know what it was or what was happening, but the way people like sort of responded and smiled and tried to figure out who's who, okay, was that inspired by you or blah, 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 blah. Again, did something to me that connected me to the letters and the writing and the books and the salons.